This marks an exciting milestone in our Python journey. We are now learning about lists, which are another Python data type, a very powerful one. So, when you're able to master lists, which you will be able to after these few lectures, you can leverage this powerful Python data type. So, lists are an ordered, mutable collection of items. If you recall, mutable means the values can change, whereas immutable means they cannot. And that's different from a string in that a string is immutable. So we cannot actually change the characters in a string. We cannot modify them, but we can modify the items in a list. And we'll show examples of this. We can also, going off of how these are similar, how they compare and contrast with strings, they are similar to strings in that we can also use an ordered index and slicing like strings. Lists can also contain multiple object types, like a string and an integer at the same time. We see down here an example of a list defined by creating our variable, equal sign, open square bracket, close square bracket at the end, and in between the square brackets, we can have our data types or our data separated by commas. So we have one item in the list, another one, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have zero-based indexing like strings. So remember, if I were to say an easy way to remember lists and how to use them, they're very similar to strings in a lot of ways. So my list 0 would be car. So the first element in a list, just like the first character in a string, is 0. Use zero-based indexing. I think of lists as a train, and each car can carry different cargo. Each car of the train can carry different cargo, and it can be a very long train. So that helps us visualize what a list can do and how powerful it can be. Before I show you an example of modifying a list, we will also look at the Python documentation. I wanted to show you something over here. This is on docs.python.org. I just want to reiterate that there's so many great resources on the official Python documentation. And here's one that talks a little bit about lists. We see some list methods, which we'll talk about as well, and plenty of examples. I have found it's very thorough, as it should be, the Python documentation. So it's not necessarily all beginner level material. I myself find some of it is a bit complex or a higher level, a higher advanced level. So just bear that in mind. But how you can find this tutorial is by going to the python.org website, looking at documentation, and then here we see some resources. And here's this tutorial. So if we click on that, we see all sorts of interesting information about Python. And just wanted to refer you back to that and invite you to visit that as you can and know that it's a great resource to help you. Now, last thing on this introduction to lists is just a brief primer on modifying list items. So we saw here on this first line, we can define a list like this. Again, our variable equals open square bracket. Make sure you have the close square bracket as well to match. And then in between our values separated by commas. Separated by commas. And we can have different data types. So to modify a list, we can select my list. This is the simple way. And then just like strings, input the index, so square brackets and then the index number inside, and change that value to what we want it to be. Now if we print the list, we see the first element, or the 0th index element, is now truck, which we've changed from car. So that's a brief introduction on lists, and looking forward to discussing this powerful Python data type more with you.